Welcome to Skill Builder number 2. This week we are going to learn how to import a different type of geospatial data into ArcGIS Pro. Then we are going to learn how to change symbology and add labels for these layers in our map. Lastly, we will add a new field to an attribute table and we'll populate the field with domain values. We are going to download our data from the Arkansas GIS Office. Before you do that, I want you to create a new folder in your GIS1 folder, in your Skill Builder folder, and name it SB2 or Skill Builder 2. This is where you're going to store your data and your map project. So next, using your internet browser, navigate to gis.arkansas.gov, which I have pulled up. Then we are going to click on Repository and scroll down. And today we are going to only download vector data, so select vector. And then we're going to download 4 different shapefiles. So the first shapefile we are going to download is the county boundaries. So that is going to be in the boundary folder. So you can see these are the 2 different file types that they provide for us, a file geodatabase or a shapefile. We're going to use shapefiles today. And scroll down until you find county_boundary. And click on it and it will start downloading. So you can see mine just went ahead and opened up. I'm going to close that out, go to my File Explorer. We'll see it has downloaded into my Downloads folder. So next, we're going to scroll up and click on this little basket trash bin looking icon to go back to this main page of vector data. Next, we're going to go down to the water category. Click Shapefile again, and we are going to find the one called Water Base Layer. So it should be at the bottom, Water Base Layer, DEQ. Once again, it's going to download. Nice, so it's downloaded. We've got 2 more to go, so back to the basket icon. Next, we're going to go to the structure category and download the 4-year colleges shapefile. So this is colleges_4year_ADHE 2019. Okay, so it's downloaded. Lastly, we are going to download the hospitals shapefile. So that is under the health category. And it would be hospitals_ADH. Okay, so now that we've downloaded all of these zipped shapefiles, we are going to open our File Explorer, and you can see they are all downloaded here and they're in zipped folders. So I'm going to leave this open. I'm going to open up my class file structure, go to my second skill builder, data. Now I'm just going to drag and drop all of these into my skill builder 2_data folder. So I can close out downloads. And then I'm going to extract all of these by right-clicking on it. It is going to just create a new unzipped folder in the same folder structure. So I'm going to say yes. So that was structure. So I'm going to delete the zipped folder. And I'm going to do this 3 more times. And then delete these zipped folders. So we've got our 4 shapefiles. And now that we have our data extracted from these folders, I want you to click into these folders and look at these different file types that make up one shapefile. So each of these folders is holding one individual shapefile, and a shapefile is composed of at least 4 different file types. So we have the .dbf, that's the database file, which is like the attribute table. We have the .prj, which is the projection shapefile, the .shp, which has the geometry, and the .shx, which I'm pretty sure holds the metadata. And we'll talk more about this projection file in Unit 2. Now let's open ArcPro and create a new project for this week's skill builder. So to make a new project, you're going to select Map Blank Template, and you're going to name it SB2, and then you're going to change the location to wherever you have your GIS1 documents saved. So I just have mine on my desktop in this folder called GIS1 class, Unit 2, Skill Builders. So I'm going to save it right in that folder, create a new folder. Yep, and we are good to go. So now we are going to go through the same steps that we did in Skill Builder 1 to add data. The only thing that's different is that we are adding shapefiles instead of a file geodatabase. So we are going to make sure we're on this Insert tab in the ribbon navigation in the project group, instead of clicking on Connections, which will connect us to a database, or as you can see, lots of other options. We are simply going to add a folder. And now you are going to navigate to where you saved those 4 shapefiles that you just downloaded. So I'm going to click OK, and then you'll open up your catalog. Remember, if your catalog pane is missing, you add it by going to View and clicking on Catalog Pane. So once you've gone through the steps of adding that folder, you see my SB2_data folder is added here under the folder option rather than the database option. So open that SB2 data, and now we have all of our different shapefiles. So notice that instead of having 4 different file types available to load in, ArcPro, which is the GIS software that we're using, is able to recognize those 4 files as one singular shapefile. So we can drag and drop, or right click and click Add to Current Map. I'm going to do that because it seems easier. So we have all of our layers added now, and now we are going, before we change the symbology, you can change the names of these layers if you'd like, and you can do that a couple different ways. You can double click on it in here. So I'm going to say 4-year college. Another way that you can change the name, instead of double clicking, you can right click on the layer, scroll down to Properties, and then you can just change the name here in general. I'm going to name this layer Hospitals in Arkansas. Maybe I'll change this name to 4-year colleges in Arkansas. I'm not exactly sure what categorizes water that fits on this water-based layer, so I'm just going to call it Waterways in Arkansas. And lastly, Arkansas counties. Now, you don't have to rename your layers if you don't want. It's totally up to you. Honestly, I almost always rename my layers. I prefer something that is a little easier to read. So if you see all these 4 layers that we added, they all have one image for symbology here. So this is our polygon layer, the Arkansas counties, and we know that because it has this polygon here. The waterways in Arkansas is our line layer, and then hospitals and 4-year colleges are our point layers. Now we are going to change symbology, and changing symbology is going to give you guys an example of what I mean when I have said that there are multiple ways to do the same thing. So there are 3 or more different ways to open the symbology pane. The first way is to right-click on the layer in the table of contents and open the symbology, or click on symbology and it will open a symbology pane over here. I'm going to close that out to show you guys the other option, which is you can just double click on this icon underneath the layer in the table of contents, and it will once again bring up that symbology pane. However, it does look a little bit different. This pane can be a bit confusing to understand, so you're just going to need to spend some time with it and spend some time clicking around to really get a feel for it. So the third way that we can change symbology is by having one of these layers selected in our table of contents and then going to Appearance in the ribbon structure, so the Appearance tab. And then in this drawing group, we have Symbology. You can click on that and it will once again pull up this Symbology pane. There are many ways to symbolize a layer, and they are grouped into 3 general categories, which you can see in the Appearance tab. Now click on this drop-down arrow underneath Symbology, and you can see, oh well, there's 5 different groups for how to symbolize. So these are all our different options, and our general groups are symbolizing the layer using one symbol, symbolizing the layer by category, symbolizing the layer by quantity or density, or using symbol attributes, which I've never used that before. I think that's a new feature in ArcPro. So today we are going to use the first 2 categories, symbolizing our layer using one symbol and then symbolizing our layer by category. So let's symbolize our hospital layer first. I am going to show you guys how to change symbology for the hospital and for your college layers. My map, it looks a little different now because I had to stop recording. They were doing some construction outside of my house and it was very loud. So I am going to turn off the Arkansas Counties layer and the Waterways layer and leave these point layers on. I changed my base map when I open this map up again. So to start changing the symbology of the hospital layer, I'm going to open the Symbology pane by clicking on this icon here. And then I'm going to click the back button. So this is the main landing page for the Symbology pane, and we are going to keep it as a single symbol. So I'm going to click on the symbol, click on Galleries, and to the right of the search bar, I'm going to change Project Styles to All Styles. And then this is for hospitals, so I'm going to type in Health. I am not sure which icon I like best. I think I'm going to go with that pen. Now I want to change the color and size of it, so up here on the top of the Symbology pane, you switch over to Properties. And I don't know, maybe I'll change the color to blue. It's not going to change in your map view over here yet until you click Apply. Now, if you do click Apply, I don't think you'll be able to cancel out. So this is a good reminder to save your project and click Apply. Change the font down. Yeah, so you see once you click Apply, you can't click Cancel. But I guess you can go back and unupdate your symbology. There is always that option. So I wanted to show you guys in here, there's also the ability to change different aspects of the symbol. So I'm going to show that to you actually when we symbolize the colleges. So I want to change the icon for colleges, so I'm going to go back to Gallery and type in Education. And I'm not sure which one I prefer, the one with the circle or without. Let me choose this one first. Change the size. Ooh, I do not like that. Okay, so with this symbol I can show you, you can change the color, the background color of the shape. You have to make sure that this is unlocked. So I can change that outline color to black. And you can see it's black now. Oops, I'm going to change it back to white, and maybe change this icon to something like red. Perfect. Now we are going to symbolize the water layer and the county layer. So we're going to symbolize the waterways layer based on category. And to figure out what category we want to use, we're going to view the attribute table. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off these other point layers and then turn on the lines or the waterways layer. Right click on it and open the attribute table. I'm going to pop it out, make it big. And what I want to show you guys, there's a couple things I want to show you in this attribute table before we get to Symbology. The first is that you can view the data type and other descriptors of each field, and so each data set, so everything in each column is going to have the same data type. And you can view those data types by hovering over the field name. And you can see that this first one is one of the object ID data types. And then the next field is a special geometry type that is a shape. And then the object ID field, you can see that the type is long. That means it is a long integer. So whoever created this data set decided that they wanted their object ID field to be a long integer, and they generated that themselves. So this is an object ID that was generated either by the Arkansas GIS Office or some other organization that they work with in order to gather this data. You can see their date field is actually a text field with a length allowable of 20. So that's interesting that they chose to use a text field instead of a date field for their date. I'm not sure why they did that, because you can see that it causes errors in the data. So record 10 or 663 has a weird date field here. Same for record 17. So we can look at this as a text field with a allowable length of 65. We've got some double float fields, so that's a decimal field. And then we have some more long integer fields. I also want to show you guys how to view domain values of each field, and there are two ways to do that. I've already done one of the ways here in this GIS name. If you double click on a field name, it will sort either alphabetically or numerically, depending on the data type. And so you can see it's sorted and it has all of the blank fields at the top right now. If you want to change that, double click again and it will sort alphabetically from the end of the alphabet to the beginning. And you can see there's a lot of different values in here, so it might not be the GIS name that would be a great thing to symbolize based on. There's another way to view the domain values in the attribute table for each field, and that is by using the Select by Attributes tool, which is up here in the top of this attribute table bar. So you can click on Select by Attributes, and our input row is going to be the whatever layer we're interested in. We're going to leave it on the waterways in Arkansas. And then go down here to the drop-down menu besides where, and you can select your field name. So we want to maybe look at the GIS ID again, and you can leave this middle box empty for now and click on this other drop-down, and I don't know why that's not working. Let me try again. Because, oh, I did ID. Okay, so GIS underscore name. I guess what is the ID field? Looks kind of random. Let me open that Select by Attributes again. Okay, so we're going to do GIS name. This drop-down menu now will show all of the unique names that are included in this table. So as you can see, there are a lot of them. So we're going to scroll over and look at some different fields to see if there's anything better for us to categorize our symbology based on. So we've got another stream name. I think that what is going to make the most sense is to symbolize it based on our ecoregion. So we can sort it by ecoregion, or we can go into the select by attributes and look at all of the domain values for the ecoregion field by changing this where to ecoregion. And notice these field names are not going to be in alphabetical order. They are in the order of their order in the table. Sorry for my dog being noisy in the background. So you can see for ecoregion that we only have a couple different categories. So I think that this is going to be a good field for us to use for our symbology. Okay, so let's change the symbology for this layer. So I'm just going to pull up the Symbology tab in a different way this time by clicking through the Appearance tab. So to change our symbology based on category, we are going to change our primary symbology type from single symbol to unique values. I'm going to exit out of this because I'm also pretty sure that you can pull up that unique values pane by clicking there. Yeah. And then you can also, once again, change it under here, under primary symbology. So we are going to choose the field that we want to symbolize based on, and that was our ecoregion. And we've got, you can see now that we have 6 different colors for these 6 different ecoregions that are included in this shapefile. And then we have one catch-all for all other values. And I don't necessarily like this like pastel color scheme, so I'm gonna change the colors. I've got to say I don't really have an eye for color, so I'm never very happy with the colors that I choose. Maybe let's turn some of these point layers on to see some contrast. And this is where I usually struggle when it comes to making a map, is choosing my colors. I'll symbolize one layer and make the icons one color, and then when I do another layer, I realize that like my point symbology doesn't really work. So like I might want to change these blue hospital points to a different color based on what color ramp I choose here. You can see there's lots of different options. I'm going to leave it on this sort of green, brown one, earthy tones. And next we are going to change the symbology of our Arkansas counties layer, and we are also going to add labels. So for our Arkansas counties, I'm going to show you guys that you can change the transparency, which I guess I have not changed the transparency of this layer yet. I didn't have it selected, okay. Yeah, so you can see I have the transparency of the Arkansas counties layer set at 50% right now. I was just messing around with it earlier, which is why it's that color. So I changed it back to 0%. You can see there's also an option to use a little slider, so you can sort of see that. Now, using the transparency is different from changing the symbology to a hollow type for polygons. And so you can change the transparency, but it is not only going to change the transparency of the color inside of the polygons, but also the polygon edges. So you can see at 100% transparency, those polygon edges have disappeared. So I'm going to change that all the way back to 0. And now I'm just going to change the symbology type to a hollow fill. And you can do that a couple different ways. You can choose one of these black outline, hollow fill options. There aren't very many. What I'm going to do is go here to this color and just select no color and click apply. And here we have no color. I might change that to 1 point. Maybe back down to 0.7 because we're going to add labels, so having it at 1 point might make it a bit cluttered feeling. Okay, so now that we have made our polygon layer hollow, we are going to add labels of the county names. To add labels, we are going to open up the label properties pane for the layer to which we want to add labels. To do that, you're going to right click on the layer name in the contents pane and find labeling properties. Notice there are two options here. This top one turns your labels on once you have designed your labeling properties. So I'm going to go ahead and click that so that you can see it created its own random labels. That's definitely not what I want. So I'm going to open up this properties and so we want to label based on county name. Yep, we've got all these values, so we're just going to change this to county. And click apply. Perfect. Now we are going to change the appearance of the label. You can change the case, so okay, and then adjustment. It's been a while since I've labeled in Pro, so sorry, I'm not as familiar with it as I should be. So I'm going to change this point value maybe just down to 9, see how that looks. That's a little better, maybe 8. Looks good. I'm going to turn off the reference layers so you can see that when I turn off this light gray, that's the base map I have. When I turn off the one called reference, it turns off the words here. You can see Fort Smith, Springdale, Fayetteville, Memphis in the background. So I'm going to turn that off. And now we are going to add a halo, also called a mask, behind this symbol. So we need to scroll down and open up the halo option. And man, I don't know why this is looking so tiny. Okay, so we're going to change it from no polygon symbol to a polygon symbol. We don't need an outline on the halo, we just need there to be a halo. So once I apply it, now that those words pop a lot more, and we can turn back on our water layer and see, yeah, it looks quite cluttered. I'm very good at making cluttered maps. So you can sort of change your labels or your symbology based on what is the most important part of your map. So if the most important part was to be able to see all of the county names, I would recommend making your font size and your halo size larger. So I changed mine from 2 to 1 and you saw a big difference. I'm going to change it back to 1. And you can see they kind of blend into the background a little bit more. Now we are going to add a field and populate the domain values in our 4-year colleges in Arkansas layer. I wanted to add a domain or add a field and domain values to this layer because there's only 12 or 13. Yeah, it looks like 12 records, and so it's not a lot of work for us to do. So the first step in adding a field to our attribute table or to our layer is to open the attribute table of the layer. And then there's 2 ways to get to what is called the field view. Right now we're in the attribute view. You can either click here on this add. I usually go over here to the right side of the table, and on these 3 lines I click on it and I select fields view. And you'll see now I have 2 different views for this same layer. Oh, I'm going to actually exit out of this and make this full screen. So fields view. And now at the bottom, you can click to add a new field. Now using this fields view can be helpful for adding new fields to layers. However, there are some values that you cannot change. Like for some reason, when it is a already created layer, you are not allowed to select this allow null value. But when you're creating a new layer from scratch, which we will do in a few skill builders, this option is allowed, like when you're creating it from scratch. Okay, so we are going to change the name of this field to, say, county. Also going to put in an alias, and these are our data types. We have short integer, long integer, float, and double. Those are our decimal point numbers. We have a date data type, and finally a text data type. So I'm going to choose text. You can change the length of a text field over here. It doesn't really need to be 500, so I'll change it back to 254. And I just accidentally created a new field, so I'm going to delete that. All right, so we have our new field created, and we need to save it, which can be challenging sometimes to find the save button. So I have struggled with this in ArcPro, and I can't really figure out, like maybe in data. Nope, doesn't look like it. Not there either. So the only way I have found to save the data when you've been editing in this fields view is just to exit out, and it asks if you want to save your unsaved changes. So say yes. And now that we have our new field, we are going to populate the domain values for that field. So we're going to fill this out for each county that each university belongs to. We can do that a couple different ways. First, I'm going to turn off my hospital layer and my waterway layer. And what we are going to do, what is the best way? So we're going to go to the Edit tab up top, and then under the Selection group, we're going to click Attributes, and it pulls up this attribute pane. And when you click on Select one or more features, it's going to allow you to select that top layer. So notice it selected this four-year colleges first, and then I got it to select the county. Let's see if I can get the county to be the first thing selected if I put it on top. So if I'm clicking even right here on this point for the college in Jonesboro, I think, it's still choosing the county because I moved this county layer to the top of the drawing order. So I'm going to move it back to where it was and click on that again. So we haven't played with this selection tool a ton, but you can select something, you can clear your selection here in the Edit tab using this clear tool in the selection group. You can select using a variety of options. Well, I don't really know how this polygon select option works in ArcPro, so just ignore that I was trying to do that. I'm going to go back to rectangle and click on that. Okay, so we're going to select one of these schools, and then you can scroll down and you should be able to just type right in here, and we can see that it is in Craighead County. So we're going to click enter and click apply. So we've changed the value for that one. And now we're just going to move through the list. When you get to Pulaski County, you're going to have to scroll in so you can select each one of these individually, or you could select them as a group and then edit each one of them individually. I'm going to clear my selection, and now I'm going to save my edits. And then I'm going to click on this college in Faulkner County. I feel like this, scrolled out the wrong way. I feel like this layer has, it must just be public colleges because does it not have Hendrix over here? Nope, it does not. So yeah, this layer has got to be just our 4-year colleges that are a part of the University of Fayetteville system. So again, to navigate around, when you have this, when you're in edit and you have this select tool, it is just going to select features that are editable. So again, if I go into this list by list by editing and say I unselect all of these, once I clear and reselect, oh, well, that did not work. It should make it so that these are not selectable. I'm not really sure why that's not working. Okay, let's try this list by selection. Turn these off. Okay, well, at least this one works. I'm not sure about this list by editing. So our list by selection did work, and now regardless of how big of a polygon I use to select, it's only going to select the 4-year colleges that are within that polygon. So you see it's not selecting any of these county boundary polygons. Okay, so clear my selection. My edits have been saved. And okay, again, to move from the selection tool to a hand tool where you can like pan around and move the screen, you are going to go back to map, to the map tab, and click on this explore button. In ArcMap, this had many different options, and it was mainly a hand, and it was called the Pane tool. I kind of preferred that more, but at least we've still got it in Pro. We've got this hand to pan around, so that's much easier to use than scrolling out and trying to then scroll in on the right location. So I want you guys to populate that new field for all 12 of these colleges. So I'm going to show you how to pull all this up again. I'm going to edit this one in Jefferson County. Come down here, Jefferson. This one in Clark County. What school is this? Henderson. I'm going to say Clark. Okay. So for you guys to finish your skill builder, you are going to open up your SB2 _instructions file and answer the questions in there, as well as include 2 different screenshots. I want you to include a screenshot of the way that you have symbolized your layers. And let me turn all of my layers back on and unselect things. So just take a screenshot of your map view with your layers symbolized as well as labeled. And then I also want you to take a screenshot of your 4-year colleges attribute table. Make it big. So make it take up the full screen. Scroll over. I want all of these to be populated, so no blank values in here, please. And just take a screenshot of this and include it in that Word document, and you'll be good to go. Well, thank you for tuning in to this week's Skill Builder. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or you have any problems. Thank you.